change the way you approach the sport, approach practice, approach workouts and stuff?
Absolutely. So in the past, it's been, hey, you only have an hour and a half or 2 hours for wrestling a day at this time, versus now it's like, hey, wrestle whatever you want and we'll fit in the other stuff later. So that's a big change. I can show up 30 minutes early, get recovery in, get my stretching in, I can stay an hour after if I wanted to doing recovery again. So it's a lot less stressful. I'm not like, after this I gotta run and do this, I gotta run and do that. It's kind of, I've put in the hard work in that stuff, so now I can kind of relax.
What's your situation with the Air Force and your service obligation? Do you resume that after the season, or what's that process?
So I'm active duty right now as a second lieutenant, but my commitment clock does not start. So I'm still serving, and as soon as I decide to exit the wrestling arena, which I have up to 4 years to do that, which I'm planning on using all 4, 1 in college and then 3 here at the Cowboy Wrestling Club training for LA 2028. I have that, but as soon as I decide to exit the program I'm in, that's when my commitment will start. So I have a 5-year commitment, no matter what. So if I wrestle 1 year, about 5 years, so it's a total of 6. But if I wrestle all 4, which I most likely will, then I'll still have that 5-year commitment. I'm gonna make a career out of the military regardless. So this is just part of the journey for me.
So you're from Wichita, right?
Yes.
Wichita area. I know Connell's up there. Were you like an Air Force guy growing up?
I was never. So my grandfather was in the Navy, but I've always been very patriotic. Flying American flags on my truck as soon as I could drive, buying American flag singlets, doing a bunch of fun stuff. But they had a couple air shows at McConnell Air Force Base, which really kind of hooked me. I met some of the pilots that went to the Air Force Academy, and they had nothing but smiles on their faces and good stuff to say about the academy. So that was like before the wrestling side of stuff even started. So having that background, having already a foot in the door, knowing what it'd be like, meeting some people in real life that aren't trying to, they're not trying to recruit me or do anything. They're just being themselves, being good people. So having situations like that, it's like, that speaks a lot more versus, if there's a salesman trying to sell you something, like, you already know they're kind of like mixing some things, but if you see that out of the blue without them like having the pressure of trying to like convince you, it's just that made it that more natural. I'm like, okay, this is a pretty sweet deal. Then I looked into it, the wrestling opportunity came, and I was like, wow, I've already met some of the best pilots in the world that are flying these planes. Like, I can follow in their footsteps and do the same thing. Until I realized I was going to be so big of a heavyweight that I'd have some waiver problems, but I still can cut down after these 4 years and until I get a pilot slot, so we'll see.
What do you have to cut down to get the pilot slot?
I gotta be 225 pounds without gear, I think. And I was like 270 pounds with gear when I was trying to get it. So, as soon as my wrestling career's over, I'll be able to cut some weight. But until then, I gotta keep lifting. I gotta get big. Kirk LeVay he's not gonna start cutting weight either. So I gotta be big, compete.
You've obviously are familiar with wrestling in Tulsa at the Big 12s. Have you imagined what that's going to be like whenever you run out there in an orange singlet?
So I had a coach that once said, whenever you're out there wrestling, if you hear anyone yelling or screaming, they're always cheering for you. Mm-hmm. And, coming from Air Force, wrestling, Oklahoma State definitely had more fans. But whenever I hear someone yelling and cheering, I'm like, they're cheering for me. It doesn't matter what they're saying. But now it's like, okay, now they are actually all cheering for me. This is only an hour. Tulsa's an hour away from Stillwater. And, I just remember being in that arena, and it's all orange anyway. Like, I guarantee you 80-90% of the fans in that arena are Oklahoma State. So, I'm kind of used to it, but now I'll be like, it feels good, and I'll be wearing the orange singlet out there in that.
What I imagine for every team that's coming into that, it feels like a home tournament for Oklahoma State. Just like, do you guys not resent them, but are you like, oh man, of course they're cheering for these guys? Or is there any of that whenever you're coming in to Tulsa from another team?
Yeah, I definitely think it's like not a home field advantage, but kind of like a home field advantage sometimes because, like I said, like that whole arena is mainly Oklahoma State. But with that, it's also hilarious because they cheer for everyone who's wrestling like against OU. So really, there's a bunch of wrestling fans, and they're like watching everybody. But it's super fun when you're in there and you just hear the whole there's no orange wrestling, but you see OU guy get taken down, and the arena's going crazy because they're just like that just that rivalry. It's fun.
Air Force is on the schedule this year.
Yeah.
Is that kind of unique seeing that?
It is a little different for me. Obviously, there's no bad blood there. I love my team. I still keep in contact with all my guys. That duel, I might wrestle in it. I might not. One match isn't gonna determine the rest of my season, whether I wrestle that match or not. But I love those guys. It's awesome. And wrestling against them, there's nothing wrong with some friendly competition. But we'll see.
You think that'll be weird for you, like that day?
I think it'll be a little different. Obviously, I know it's a lot different story when you leave a place because you just don't like it. It's on bad terms. But Air Force doesn't have a graduate program, so there's no possible way I could stay there and wrestle another year. But like I said, I still keep in contact with all my coaches. I still love those guys. Still hang out with them whenever I go up to Colorado. But it'll be a little bit weird that day. Yeah.
We're inside a month to the first duel.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about the team?
So, wrestling each other in this room is crazy because Coach Taylor teaches both sides of everything every time we do something, and I think we just don't realize how much we've sharpened our sword, how sharp our edge is. Because wrestling each other is we're when there's a scramble, no one's conceding any points. So these scrambles are long. When we go out there and wrestle people, they're not going to have that ability that we do. So I think it's going to be a shock to us. We're just going there and grinding every day. We're loving the experience. It's not like, oh, we got to go in and do this. It's like, oh, we get to go wrestle and get better at this position today. It's a lot more fun. We're showing up 30 minutes early to practice, just ready to learn something. We're not dragging in at the last second. So the energy's there, especially as I'm watching. Because I don't cut weight, but I watch the guys cut weight. They're doing it the right way. They're still feeling great. They're still wrestling super strong. So I think other teams are going to be really shocked because they're going to be like, these guys just don't give up. But if you've ever wrestled Coach Taylor, you know that he will never concede a single point. And I feel like I'm kind of the same way now. So wrestling the guys in the room, it's kind of hard to realize how good we've actually gotten over the past, we've been wrestling here for 4 months, so 3-4 months. So I think it's gonna be a shock. It's gonna be awesome.
Were you in the finals at Big 12s with Serber a couple years back?
I was, yeah.
And he almost had you in a crate.
Yeah,
have you guys discussed that moment at all yet?
No, I think we've joked about it a couple times. Serber's awesome. He's liked by everyone. It's hilarious. We're going to school or we're going to get dinner and everyone's just saying hi to Luke. It's so nice finally able to be teammates with these guys because in wrestling and when you're competing against people, it's different because that's the only perception you have of them is the competition version of them. When I step on the mat, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna rip your head off. And so, but off the mat, I'm just a big teddy bear. But finally being able to meet these guys and stuff like that, I think we joked about it once. But I remember that match a little bit, but we didn't really care. It's hilarious. We always joke about in the wrestling we'll wrestle each other, and it's all fun. There's nothing there.
It seems like you guys are going to have a pretty old team. With that being said, Cody Merrill was here today.
Yeah.
What have you noticed about him so far?
Yeah, I think the young generation, which is weird to say. I'm technically still younger, but I'm a 5th year, and he's just coming in. But kind of trying to give them a solid foundation. I know the stuff that made a big difference for me when I was a freshman is what were the upperclassmen doing? What were their habits? Because that really directly translates to what's going to happen to the little guys. And we got the older guys here are setting probably the best examples I can ever think of at any school. So, at Air Force, I try to set that good example. There's some things I did good. There's some things I did bad. This is kind of another year to refine that again. So I think it's really important that us older guys are setting good examples and doing the right stuff so they can see that. Because if that's all they know, that's what they're going to do for the rest of their career. If they see, older classmen slacking off or giving up points in practice, it's going to set a different tone. But Cody's, I wrestled Cody as well. But he's cutting a little bit of weight, but they're so open to learning from us. And because I'll wrestle them and I'll give them feedback, and they're very coachable, which is probably the most important thing. Because if you have a great coach who knows other stuff, you're not going to listen to him. It doesn't matter. But they're really digging into the program, and having someone like Coach Taylor, who's so reputable in wrestling, it's easy to follow what he's telling you to do.
Thanks, Wyatt.